this day under our administration of American patriots, we will be working to meet every crisis with dignity and power and strength. We will move with purpose and speed to bring back hope, prosperity, safety, and peace for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. For American citizens, January 20th, 2025 is Liberation Day.
Liberation Day. Yesterday, America is America again. Isn't that nice? Now, should we start using the FBI and the intelligence community against the political enemies of the Democratic Party just to make a point? What do you think? President Trump did. We talked about it yesterday. He did yesterday strip the security clearances from the felonious 51 who ran a corrupt information operation. It was a disinformation operation against the American people designed to corrupt the presidential election of 2020. The likes of John Penitentiary Face Brennan having his exalted security clearance stripped away, along with 50 other Democrats who are filthy, corrupt, and they tampered in our election like we're a third world country and they're the CIA. Hey, wait a minute, maybe they're onto something. Problem is, they make it into a third world country and then they treat it like a third world country. But remarkable things happening. President Trump pardoning January 6th, people. News media very, very upset about this in droves. They're just amazing. President, now that it kind of started, the snowball got rolling because Joe Biden was pardoning everybody under the sun. The entire January 6th committee, plus all the January 6th committee staffers, plus all the January 6th committee witnesses. So if you committed perjury, if you destroyed documents, if you wiped out evidence, Joe Biden cleared the decks for you. You've got nothing to worry about because he's profoundly corrupt. And now so are you because he's made you corrupt. The Democrats have invited you in to embellish and exaggerate and commit perjury and said, don't worry, we'll take care of you later, well, it's just a little swipe of the fingertip along the nose. The fix is in. Don't worry. We got this. And then Joe Biden, who is, with the Biden criminal enterprise, the Biden crime family, amazing stuff. He pardoned his brother James. Boy, talk about a last-minute pardon. He had James sweating bullets over there. And the bullets were provided by Hunter, from the pistol that his brother's widow, who he was boinking, threw in the garbage can behind the high-end grocery store. You may remember. What a family. They're gone now. I got to say, my best girl and I yesterday, we secured a perch. And yesterday afternoon, we were not down at the Capitol. It was not in the rotunda. I was, here doing the radio show until just moments before the oath of office was taken. But I made my way with my best girl to a perch overlooking the city of Washington, where we saw the helicopter taking off from the east front of the Capitol. We saw it fly a lap around the mall and official Washington. Last look, a last wave from Marine One at the White House and the mall in Washington, and then flew to Andrews, Joint Base Andrews Air Force Base, and we watched the helicopter fly all the way out there from our perch and saw it essentially landing, going in at Andrews. And then while watching the television and people showing Biden, who stopped to talk to some of the Air Force people at Andrews, because the 89th Airlift Wing that takes care of the executive branch, flies Air Force One and the various other executive airplanes out of Andrews. And he went and thanked them. And he said a couple of dumb things, didn't he? He said, this is the beginning of real change. He didn't realize that he's just been kicked out of office. He thinks that he's still on a campaign running for something. But do you grab that, right, Michael? Because that was kind of an amazing moment. I was watching that. And did it strike you the same way? Because I was watching this yesterday, And he's, yeah, there's real change coming. It's like, yeah, that's for sure. Damn Skippy. And amazing stuff. What a dimwit this man is. He proved it right up to the last moment. But then we watched Air Force One take off, and it was flying north out of Andrews when it did a loop and came back. And Air Force One flew the length of the mall in Washington as well. One last look from Air Force One, as now the former president of the United States. So technically not Air Force One, technically not Marine One, because he was no longer president. He's former president. It becomes SAM flight, Special Air Mission flight. And the 747, though, was going to fly him back to Delaware so he can go to one of his many waterfront mansions bought with the family's ill-gotten gains out of Ukraine and Russia and China that the New York Times and CNN are fine with. They're just fine with all that stuff. But we did watch the 747, tail number 28,000 or 29,000. I couldn't see it that well. And it flew the length of the mall and then peeled off. And bye-bye, Joe Biden. And we didn't quite sing bye-bye, Miss American Pie, but practically as Air Force One flew away from the mall. And it was a great place to be, to watch the final moments of Joe Biden. The Marine Corps helicopter from HMX-1, the squadron HMX-1, flying Joe Biden away from the Capitol, and then the 747, which when the president is aboard is called Air Force One, picking him up at Andrews and doing one final lap down the mall in Washington before flying away. And it was kind of nice to see. It was goodbye, Joe. Sorry we got to know you. Of course, we didn't really get to know you, did we? We are, of course, at 888-630-9625. A lot of things happened yesterday. Boy, did a lot of things happen yesterday. I think President Trump gave 3 speeches and a press conference, and he was late getting to the first inaugural ball because at the White House in the Oval Office at the Resolute desk, where there was an amusing moment or two, President Trump was going to take a couple of questions, and he ended up staying there for, 40 minutes or something like that. So he was about a half an hour late to his first inaugural ball because he was too busy taking impromptu questions from the press corps, including a lot of hostile questions from a lot of hostile press. But President Trump always took questions from the news media. Joe Biden never did. Kamala Harris never did. They're not good at it. They don't know what's going on. Their brains are no good. And Joe Biden's brain, she's a broke. She's a no good. And Kamala, she's just not so bright. She does apparently a couple of things well, but we won't go into that here. And remarkable stuff. But they are gone. Or what is the line? They're forgotten but not gone. They're just appalling stuff. Now, President Trump did a lot yesterday. 3 speeches, 1 press conference at least, plus taking questions elsewhere. He did amazing things, pardoning people from January 6th. And again, I've got to point to May and June of 2020, when hundreds of Democrats violently attacked the White House, injuring 160 police officers at least, including mostly, in fact, federal officers, Uniform Division, U.S. Secret Service, or U.S. Park Police, plus D.C. Metropolitan Police Department, injuring at least 160 officers. Not a single one of them was sentenced to a single night in jail. Not a month, not a week, not a weekend. Nobody was found guilty of assaulting the police because we have a 2-tier system of justice. And the Democrats get away with murder all over the place and with rioting, and they set fire to the church of the presidents. And somehow there's no video of anybody around. It's like the pipe bomb at the DNC headquarters and the RNC headquarters the day before January 6th. That'd be January 5th. And somehow there he is talking on his cell phone. Here's video of him. Here's still photos of him. Here's the timestamp. Here's his cell phone number, and they still don't know. Oh, gosh, who's that? And nobody at the White House riot in 2020 forced the evacuation of the President of the United States and the first family to the underground bunker. And nobody was sentenced to a night in jail for that. But Enrique Tarrio of the Proud Boys, African-American, Cuban-American, Proud Boys guy, they're pro-American, the Proud Boys. They're pro-U.S., they're pro-Western, They like to say the West is the best. Jim Morrison used to say that, with the Doors when he was living and everything. And remarkable stuff. And so the two-tiered system of justice is inexcusable to me, unforgivable to me. And then January 6th, Enrique Tarrio was sentenced to 22 years in a penitentiary. He wasn't even in Washington on January 6th. I'm beginning to think maybe they put together a lynch mob in D.C., a Democrat Party jury who will jail anybody that didn't vote the way they voted because they're basically communists and, in many cases, too dumb to realize it. Remarkable stuff. So President Trump pardoning January 6 people, but with dozens of executive orders yesterday having to do with the border, with January 6th. And I got to say, the pardons for January 6th, big deal, kind of a big deal. And my friend Brent Bozell of the Media Research Center, the great Brent Bozell, his son was caught up in all of this, the January 6th thing, and then he was targeted by the Biden Justice Department and thrown into prison. And I'm happy to report that there's an update on that, and I want to get to that. Also, Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio freed, expected Tuesday in Miami, his family says. Again, this guy wasn't there. I mean, it's like a Mel Brooks movie or something, I wasn't even there. I didn't even see it. I don't know the guy. That's not my name. But Enrique Tarrio was literally not in the city of Washington, and he was given 22 years in prison because he organized a group of Proud Boys to go to Washington for January 6th. And so they put him in prison for 22 years. Now, the Proud Boys had come to Washington before. My best girl and I had encountered them out in the streets. They were marching. Couldn't have been more mellow. Clean cut. I told the story at the time. My best girl and I walking, I think, around Pennsylvania Avenue at the time, had a group of Proud Boys ahead of us, wearing their yellow and black. And we're walking by them, and they, make eye contact and nod and, do a little how you doing stuff. And I was walking by this young guy, and he extended his, and I remember it being his left arm, and with a fist, he extended it while I'm walking by. And I gave him a knucks bump, a fist bump as I walked by, because he's just acknowledging us as we walk by. So I gave him a fist bump, and I didn't say anything. He kept walking, and he said, "The West is the best. The West is the best." And I said, "Yes, it is. Yes, it is." And he smiled, and I smiled, and we kept walking. Now, the West is the best. Oh, yeah, I always forget. So a young African-American guy, the Proud Boy, because they like to say that, the Proud Boy's white supremacists or some. A lot of these white supremacists are black and Cuban-Americans, and Enrique Tarrio is a black Cuban-American, and threw him in prison for 22 years for not even being in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. Amazing stuff. And if you broke a window, you shouldn't break a window. They gave you years in prison. These are the same people who are giving grandmothers, literally giving grandmothers, praying outside of abortion clinics, years in prison, literally years in prison for praying outside of an abortion clinic because the Democrats are in there with those souvenir baseball bats from the baseball field. I got one from San Diego at home. I've got an old Chicago Cubs one, too. And they take the souvenir baseball bats and they beat babies to death in there. Wah, wah, wah. And they like that. And they give out lucite blocks and stuff. They give out awards for that stuff. And if you go pray outside an abortion clinic, then the Biden Justice Department gives your grandmother years in a penitentiary. Aren't they amazing? That's not equal justice under law. And it's not equal justice under law when the riots at the White House injure 160 police, torch the church of the presidents, destroy property all over the place, and nobody is sentenced to a day in prison. That's not equal justice under law. I like equal justice under law, like it says above the entrance to the Supreme Court. That's my goal. We used to have that. Let's do that again. It's a good idea, I think. Isn't that amazing? Got illegal aliens robbing the homes of professional athletes while they're on television playing football and stuff. Gangs of illegal aliens because the Democrats want more of that. That's why they've done all of the things that they've done. Amazing stuff. Joe Biden's last-minute corruption on parade yesterday. And President Trump just throwing down the gauntlet yesterday, throwing down the gauntlet. That's a glove, that's a glove. But throwing it down yesterday, and I've got a lot of what I couldn't possibly go through everything President Trump did yesterday, but I'll give it a whack. We're at 888-630-9625. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Now, Joe Biden yesterday pardoned the police officer that shot and killed Ashley Babbitt on January 6th. Lieutenant Byrd, the Democrats love cops that shoot and kill people, unarmed women, because they don't believe in legal protests and all that good stuff. She served 12 years in the U.S. Air Force honorably, wasn't kicked out for repeated cocaine abuse like Hunter Biden, the business genius. Just amazing. And Lieutenant Byrd, full pardon from Joe Biden. Pardon for what? Just because he shoots and kills without warning unarmed women who may have trespassed and then may not have because they may have been waved in by other U.S. Capitol Police officers. So there he is, Byrd, Lieutenant Byrd, pardoned by Joe Biden. He's the cop killer. See, he's a killer cop. Isn't that amazing? All right, let's go to the telephones. Let's go to John, calling from Fredericksburg, Virginia. Oh, John, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Something like that. He's called the shaman.
He's a shaman. He's the shaman. Hey, John. Come on, join us over here, John. John's over.
You talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you, man. Yeah.
Oh, gee whiz! Oh, I heard you talking about the guy,
Lieutenant Byrd, who killed Ashley Babbitt, got a pardon yesterday.
I heard you talking about him, so I thought you were still talking about.
No, I'm talking to you.
While I'm eating breakfast here.
Well, it's the most important meal of the day.
That's right. You got to get that stuff in there, otherwise, you're down the rest of the day.
But you're going to run out the clock.
Too.
You're going to run out the clock real soon, though.
That's true.
That's true.
No, yeah, I called up. Yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on the idea of President Trump pardoning President Biden and Dr. Jill.
I think he should absolutely not pardon Joe Biden and or Dr. Jill. In fact, I think they should probably have their homes raided by the FBI with a Newsmax camera crew outside at the curb to substitute for the CNN camera crew at the Roger Stone pre-dawn raid. I think Joe Biden and the FBI should show up with classified document cover sheets and lay them out all over the floor at one of Joe Biden's mansions and shoot pictures of it and feed the pictures to the media. Yeah, so Ashley Babbitt was 35 years old when she was shot and killed by a U.S. Capitol Police officer. And the Democrats loved it. It was, black police officer, white, unarmed woman, and the Democrats have been applauding ever since. They love it. It's because of their guilt, because they're slavers. They're the party of slavery and Jim Crow. So they're still all screwed up about that, and rightly so. And 35-year-old Ashley Babbitt, who again served 12 years in the United States Air Force. She deployed repeatedly to Afghanistan and Iraq and the surrounding environment. How many times did she deploy? 8 times, I think, she deployed as a member of the United States Air Force for 12 years. Isn't that amazing? Just extraordinary stuff. They claim that she tried to climb through a broken window. Did she break the window? No, somebody else broke it, but she was going to climb through the window. So naturally, Lieutenant Byrd shot her and killed her because that's what she does. Womp, womp, womp. And was there any warning, any non-lethal use of maybe a stun gun or a taser or pepper spray or a nightstick? No, none of that. Just shoot the B word and move on, because that's what your Democrats do. They're the left, all right? Nobody kills people like the left. Isn't that amazing? Womp, womp, womp. Yes, sir. And the news media, they were happy with it, too. Just amazing stuff. She stormed, here's the news media, she stormed the Capitol. She's one person, okay. Amazing stuff. And now the Democrat who shot, you remember Lieutenant Byrd also left his gun in the men's room up on Capitol Hill one day and went away like something out of a bad Hollywood movie where the dumpy, slow-moving cop leaves his gun on the sink and walks out reading the want ads or whatever he's reading in the newspaper. Just amazing stuff. Yep. 12 years active duty and deployed to Afghanistan, to Iraq, to Kuwait, to Qatar, served in the Air National Guard after 2010 for 6 years. The District of Columbia Air National Guard, they have F-16s. She was part of the Capitol Guardians to defend Washington, D.C. That's their mission. And then she went to, have her voice heard by members of Congress. And she was shot and killed, and the Democrats gave the police officer awards for it. So Joe Biden, the outgoing U.S. president, pardoned on Monday various officials and politicians, including Michael Byrd, the officer who killed protester Ashley Babbitt. Oh, is that going to be a problem? No, it's not. No, because the left is good at this. Other individuals who were pardoned include former Representative Liz Cheney, former Chief Medical Advisor Anthony Fauci, former Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Thoroughly Modern Mark Milley, and others, all the staffers and all the members of the January 6th committee. Isn't that amazing? And all the witnesses, and Lieutenant Byrd was a witness for the January 6th committee. So I'm guessing if Lieutenant Byrd has for years been beating his wife and his dog, that he's been cleared of all of that too, right? So now if his wife comes forward and says, oh, he's been the most abusive, no, sorry, Joe Biden pardoned him, because isn't that amazing? The pardon also included members of the House January 6th committee, which included police officers and involved in the death of 4 people during the January 6th protests. Amazing stuff. On January 6, 2021, Ashley Babbitt and 3 other protesters lost their lives during an attempted takeover of the U.S. Capitol building. Babbitt, a U.S. Air Force veteran, died after being shot in the neck by Capitol Police Officer Michael Byrd. The footage of her death has been widely circulated among American protesters. Yeah, I think maybe the news media should cover it, too. Amazing. So in the announcement of the pardons, Biden said, these public servants have served our nation in honor and distinction, right? He also stated that the nation owes these public servants a debt of gratitude for their tireless commitment to our country. Now, let's keep in mind that in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a police officer named Derek Chauvin was arresting George Floyd for yet another felony in his lifelong career of committing felonies and of consuming lots of illegal drugs like fentanyl, which were coursing through his system when he tried to pass counterfeit money to a legal immigrant running a store in Minneapolis in a rough neighborhood. And there's George Floyd, career criminal, and amped up on all kinds of drugs. What did he have? He had methamphetamine in his system. He had fentanyl in his system. He had THC, smoking joints. He's doing fentanyl, getting high, doing meth to amp himself back up. He's got a long history with the police. He's resisting arrest, and he died, according to one of the coroners, of a cardiac failure, of cardio failure. And the police officer in that case was given years and years in prison, and Derek Chauvin. And once he was in prison, a Democrat stabbed him 22 times. 22 times. Derek Chauvin stabbed in prison 22 times. And Lieutenant Byrd shot and killed Ashley Babbitt, who spent 12 years in the Air Force, deployed 8 times, served in the D.C. Air National Guard unit, and she was allegedly guilty of trespassing. And she was shot and killed, and the Democrats applaud it. George Floyd, they'll burn your kid's school down over George Floyd dying of cardiac failure because of all the drugs coursing through his system. This is today's Democrat Party. If you vote for them, you're voting for more of this, aren't you? Yes, you are. And in fact, with that, because it's kind of a wacky story, and it fits right in here, from WLWT, this is kind of an amazing story. LSU shirt, Louisiana State University, and Bengals hat found in vehicle occupied by Chilean burglary suspects. Chilean burglary suspects, what's this now? An investigation into the break-in at Joe Burrow's home has taken a turn as investigators may have a break in the case. 4 Chilean nationals waved into the country by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, she was our borders czarina, and the Democrat Party opening our borders. 4 Chilean nationals arrested in Clark County are accused of burglarizing multi-million-dollar homes. And they name them Alexander Chavez and Bestian Morales and Jordan Sanchez and Sergio Cabello, facing multiple charges, including participating in a criminal gang, engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity, obstructing official business, all kinds of burglary, and stealing from, world-famous NFL player, playing for the Bengals. And he was on TV playing when these Chileans robbed his home. And you have to go way, way down into the story to find, after the 4 male Chileans, they found their true identifications. They're all using fake IDs and fake identities, fake names. Learned that all 4 males being identified as illegally in the country. All 4. So these illegal alien Chileans are robbing the homes of NFL players while they're on TV because they can see they're not at home, right? They're on the road. So they're burglarizing their homes. And this is part of the Democrat Party's plan for America, the fundamental transformation of America from a country that anybody would want to live in to something other than a country that anyone would want to live in. And also, while we're talking about it, Jimmy Carter, it was today would be the anniversary of Jimmy Carter in 1977. He was elected in 1976, right? And then inaugurated on January 20th of 1977. Jimmy Carter, one day later on this date, January 21st of 1977, one day after he was inaugurated, Jimmy Carter granted an unconditional pardon to hundreds of thousands of men who evaded the draft during the Vietnam War. Mass pardons, they love, it's very banana republic of them. They love these mass pardons. In total, some 100,000 young Americans went abroad in the late 1960s and early 1970s to avoid serving in the war. 90% went to Canada, where after some initial controversy, they were eventually welcomed as immigrants. Still others hid inside the United States. Now, in addition to those who avoided the draft, a relatively small number, about 1,000, deserters from the U.S. Armed Forces also headed to Canada. While the Canadian government technically reserved the right to prosecute deserters, in practice, they left them alone, even instructing border guards not to ask many questions. And Jimmy Carter pardoned everybody. So U.S. government actually continued to prosecute draft evaders after the Vietnam War ended. Total of 209,517 men were formally accused of violating draft laws. But Jimmy Carter pardoned everybody one day after taking office because, hey, they're just, serving the interests of the communists. And there's a story I like to tell because it's true. I learned this story from then Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Hugh Shelton, General Hugh Shelton, who was a rompin' U.S. Army Vietnam War Special Forces guy and became Chairman of the Joint Chiefs. And I was having dinner with him, as you might, when I was assigned to the Pentagon in my previous life. And Hugh Shelton was a good guy. I liked him. And he told a story. He was having dinner with the chief of the Canadian Armed Forces, who is the equivalent of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, right? Who explained to General Shelton that during the Vietnam War, a number of Americans fled the United States and went to Canada to avoid the draft. But a greater number of Canadians left Canada, came to the United States to join the U.S. military to get into the Vietnam War. How do you like that? Isn't that a wild story? All right, now, so much to say, so much to do. Let's go to another phone call, Michael. And I've got to say that I'm looking forward in the next hour. You know, I never do guests. The last guest I had on the show, I believe, was Donald Trump, and he was president of the United States, living in the White House when I had him on the show. But a little later on today, going to be speaking to Brent Bozell, the great Brent Bozell of the Media Research Center and more. Has done so much great work and continues to do such great work. Media Research Center, MRC, Newsbusters, all kinds of wonderful stuff. And Brent's son was caught up in the January 6th thing, and a major development has occurred since President Trump took the oath of office yesterday. And in the next hour, I'm looking forward to speaking to Brent Bozell, my first guest since President Trump was on the show, and he was in the White House. All right, now, enough about me. Let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Matt, calling from Pittsburgh, PA. Matthew, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Good morning, Chris. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir, I can.
You're a great American. Thanks for what you do. I'm 27 years law enforcement, served in the Marine Corps prior to that, love this country. What I would like to see is our new president offer a pardon for Derek Chauvin.
Wow, who I was just talking about moments ago.
Yes, sir. That was a political persecution that tore down the fabric of policing across the country and also inflamed race relations. And it wasn't accurate reporting. There's all kinds of reports on what actually happened and what he did exactly what he was trained to do, besides costing him being stabbed. He should be pardoned.
Well, you've probably seen the documentary film available for free on Al Gore's amazing internet, peace be upon him, called Minneapolis Has Fallen. And it is a great documentary about the entire George Floyd incident and the Derek Chauvin lynching and the man who was the chief of the Minneapolis Police Department, who apparently told untruths under oath about the training academy and what was taught there. And the knee was not on the neck. It was between the shoulder blades, which is exactly how they train at the police academy. And the coroner's office, again, found that he didn't die from a neck injury or asphyxiation or anything of the kind, but from a cardiac issue. And they said that if they had found him at home dead, asleep in his Barcalounger, they would have, based on the toxicology report, they would have determined and announced that he had died from a fatal drug overdose, right?
Yes, sir. That's all accurate.
Yeah. So you'd like to see President Trump, you yourself, a Marine and 27 years law enforcement, and you'd like to see President Trump pardon or what is the sentence? Yeah, commute the sentence of Derek Chauvin. Commute the sentence, get him out of prison. I'd like to see that, too, because that was, again, Minneapolis Has Fallen is a great and important documentary, very well done, absolutely free to you and your friends on Al Gore's amazing internet, and wonderful stuff. Now, Matt, you're police in Pittsburgh, PA?
Yes, sir, just north of there.
Great. I got a bunch of family from Sharon, Pennsylvania, just north of Pittsburgh, PA. Used to go there as a kid.
I worked there as a Sharon police officer 25 years ago.
Cut it out. No kidding. Is that right? Yeah.
True story. Yes, sir.
Donnellans, and I got a bunch of cousins there. Big families, nice big Catholic families. Matthew, thank you very much. I'm saluting you, my friend.
Thank you. Right back at you. God bless you.
Thanks, buddy. It was a nice, sharp, crisp salute by me, too. It was a good one. Not one of those sloppy fake salutes with a curved hand and all that. No. Great stuff. I'm with Matt on that. I think that Derek Chauvin was abused in a political lynching by the left. They love rioting and looting, and criminals, they raise their sons to be criminals. Remember, the problem is not our guns, it's your sons. Stop raising criminals, Democrats, and we'll have a much better country. Thank you. You're welcome. I love what Matt was talking about. Turns out that Derek Chauvin, convicted in state court in Minnesota, would have to be pardoned by the governor. Who's the governor again? Tim Walz, who was running for vice president, believe it or not. He's a war hero and all that stuff. Tim Walz. President Trump could pardon him for federal crimes. He was also tried for that because, Democrats. President Trump could pardon him for some of the things he was convicted of or pled guilty to. But Tim Walz, who's communist, would not, anti-police, all that.
I've become friends with school shooters.
And that's Tim Walz. All right, let's go to the phones. Let's go to Dennis, calling from Chesapeake, Virginia. Dennis, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Dennis.
This Officer Byrd murdered Ashley Babbitt. He was twice her size. He could easily have stopped her. This pre-pardon stuff, it has to be taken to the Supreme Court. This is outrageous. This is outrageous. He committed murder on television. He hid in the shadows. He jumped out and he shot her. He did not try to stop her. This is outrageous.
Well, the Democrats applauded. Nancy Pelosi applauded. The news media applauded. And it was rather ironic after the Democrats burned the country to the ground from Seattle to Kenosha to New York to Atlanta and Miami and elsewhere, Washington, D.C. My neighborhood was sacked and looted and plundered. The neighborhood around this radio station was sacked, looted, and plundered repeatedly because Derek Chauvin.
This pardon power, it's meant for a final appeal. After you're charged, you're convicted, you're doing your time, you run through your appeals. Your final appeal is to the governor or to the president. This pre-pardon stuff, this has to be taken to the Supreme Court.
I'm with you, and I got to tell you, they burned the country down because a white officer was arresting a black man, right?